listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
Okay, so there's an episode of Futurama where Bender is like, I am the zinc saucier, which is a new title I made up, like instead of Iron Chef. And that's what I think I am. I think I'm a zinc saucier, specifically because I think I'm not very good at cooking, but I'm good at making condiments. I'm good at sauces. So today I picked up some takeout samosas and I forgot that we didn't have any tamarind sauce, and I feel really strongly that no food is to be consumed dry. So I'm like the inverse of Andrea Warner.
I'm just wow.
Every food has to have a complimentary sauce or dip. Like I feel really like this is a profound life philosophy for me.
I like a sauce and a dip. I don't like it swimming in sauces.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a little sidecar. I like a sidecar. I'm very happy to provide you with an array of different bowls of depth and size.
Honestly,
to house a variety of sauces for you. But you deserve no less.
Thank you.
But
Thank you.
So I didn't have tamarind sauce, and I was like, I'm not going out again. So I had to look at the motley crew of jams and hot sauces and things in our fridge, because our fridge is always 90% condiments.
Same.
And then some of them are condiments we've made, and then we are not always consistent about taping
and labeling
on the top. Yeah, and being like, what is this and when did we make it?
That is crucial.
Yeah, that very crucial. I am trying to implement that in our household. It's not going great, but there is intent there. So I was like, how am I going to possibly approximate tamarind, which I feel is very unique in its flavor. But what I had was a jam, a preserve. Let's say it was a preserve. It was strawberry, cherry, and cacao nib. And then I was going through the hot sauces, and there was a blueberry habanero hot sauce, and I combined these. And wait, it was incredible. It was incredible. It was incredible. It was actually a very similar vibe to a tamarind sauce. Something about the earthiness of the cacao nib really sort of brings through that unique kind of tamarind flavor, which I feel is sort of savory, citrusy, and then there's a spice mix in that sauce. Anyway, it slapped. I loved it. I ate it all. I was like, wow. And I gotta say, that preserve was a bit of a fail. I bought it at the farmer's market, and then I tried it, and I was like, I don't want to eat this weirdly earthy preserve. It wasn't sweet enough, if that makes sense. It just had a strange in-between sweet and savory flavor. But now I've realized, it's because it wants to be a sweet and sour sauce base. Because to me, that's kind of what tamarind is. It's a cousin of the sweet and sour sauce. And so
you should go back to that farmer stand and just be like, you know what would be better if you mix this with this.
Listen, you've made a halfway okay tamarind sauce, but it needs like tamarind supplement, or I guess alternative, but it needs some work. Can you imagine?
Incredible feedback. Well, I mean, I can imagine, because I feel like that is something I would accidentally do.
It is one of my most memorable experiences at the winter Christmas market. You know, the German one that they have downtown?
Oh, yeah.
The big one?
I do know. I love it. It's in no way authentic, but I really enjoy it.
To be fair, this is when it was even smaller, when it was just outside of the Queen Elizabeth Theater.
Oh, yeah. It was cute and little at that time.
Yeah, A-Dubs and I went there, I think probably after work one day, and we were wandering around, and there was this woman running a candle stand, and we were checking out the candles, and there was one that smelled it was called monkey farts.
Yep.
And smelled like banana.
Wow.
And A-Dubs was very vocal about how terrible a name monkey farts is, and how nobody would want their home to smell like monkey farts. And the woman behind the stand got legitimately mad and offended.
So mad.
I really thought and she chased us away. She shooed us away from her stand.
I thought we were standing far enough away, and I also didn't realize how loud my voice would carry.
Listen, professional broadcaster.
To be fair,
maybe don't broadcast your feelings about candles.
This was so long ago. This is like before I've ever done any broadcast. Before AG had like whipped me into shape vocally.
That's so funny.
This is when I was like just out there going wild on my own. Yeah.
Weirdly, farmers market related, at Kit's Farmers Market, there is one stand that I'm obsessed with, and it's called the Chili Tank. And it's a chili stand that looks like an army tank. Like it's a replica of an army tank filled with chili. Mm-hmm. And it's just the most like aggressive,
like
masculine
meat chili.
Yeah. Like tactical beans, I guess. I don't know. It's really as a full on chili assault, just like in the middle of all of these, like beautiful produce stands and little flower shops and just like cute little stands, and then it's chili tank, and it's just like.
So what? Does the tank somehow dispense the chili?
Yeah,
it's chili.
It's like
a
cauldron with a like small. Like, it's not like the size of an actual, I think, full-size military tank, but it's a small tank that they've built around a chili cauldron, and it's like, and it's got a big camo sign. Like, it's just, the way that it's branded is so antithetical to the farmer's market spirit.
You have to admire it.
Yeah, like, I feel like it's like a hostile takeover of Kit's, the chili tank.
Have you tried it?
No, I'm just obsessed with it. Like, I just take pictures of it every time I go and like send it to people. And I probably should try it, but I just feel like, I don't know. It's one of those things where you're like, okay, like sometimes a business just really swings for the fences in the branding, and you're like, I have to respect this. Like, I feel this way about the restaurant that's just called Liquids and Solids, and every time I pass it, I'm like, Liquids and Solids. Like, you know what? Keep it simple, I guess. Like,
but like that's how they describe like bodily waste.
It's
like,
funny.
I really. Similarly to how I feel about monkey farts, I don't think Liquids and Solids is the best name for a restaurant.
But Cynara, can I just say that as someone, if you don't cook and you like mixing sauces, chili might be your creative medium, because you can it's just like throwing things into a pot and like simmering, and it's combining any flavors and anything you have in your fridge that you think will taste good.
Yeah, like I do like chili. Don feels really strongly about his chili recipe. Like, he has a real depth of flavor ritual. So I don't know if I'm allowed to like, I feel like it's a bit like he's the weird sisters, all three of them just ham when he's making chili. And I'm like not allowed to be a part of it.
I feel like you could create your own chili.
Yeah. You know what?
It could even be based on this like faux tamarind sauce.
Yeah. I also make a really good dumpling dip. I've like taught myself over the pandemic because I couldn't get restaurants to send me red vinegar. And then I was just like, I guess I got to go buy a lot of vinegars because for some reason I'm not allowed to ask for them.
Weird.
It was weird. Well, I just think they were like, nah, it's a pandemic. We're not going to package up a bunch of little things of vinegar for you. Get a life. Go buy some vinegar.
Well, I guess the red vinegar is like the special.
Well,
vinegar.
I think why it's special is because every like good congee or delicious restaurant like kind of has their own vinegar that they've like fermented or done something exciting to, and that's why it's like so delicious when you mix it with chili oil. And then I was really just like, what do I do? And I was like trying to bribe restaurants. Like, I was trying to like give big tips to see if that would like incur, like if that would maybe they would like.
Can't you just buy a bottle of it?
Well, not like their whatever they make in house, but I was able to like through experiments of going to T&T and buying different vinegars, like figure out how to achieve like the perfect umami vinegar mix. So that kept me entertained for at least a few months.
I really feel like this could be one of the very specific character details of one of the characters in the show that we're going to talk about. Like.
Yeah, is this what I would contribute to like a lesbian enclave? Like honestly, just being really good at sauce.
Honestly, All three of us could be residents of Deadloch. Let's be serious.
For sure. For sure. Absolutely.
I see all three of us living there easily.
We've got a plan, the three of us. So after we're done recording this episode, we're all moving to Australia.
We're gonna moving to Australia, buying a Subaru to get collectively together.
And just taking over.
You know what? It's our Tassie era. We're gonna move to Tasmania. There's no other choice.
I love it. I love it. This is a great plan. I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Andrea Gin.
I'm Cynara Geissler.
Yay! And you're listening to Pop This. Welcome back, Cynara.
Thanks. Once again. Never left, but always happy to be acknowledged on mic.
Lisa Christiansen is at a concert, so she was not able to sit in on this awesome episode this evening.
Yeah.
But we're so happy to have Cynara filling in for Lisa.
Yeah.
And really like helping us, create our vision board for our future in Deadloch.
I do want Lisa to watch it though, because I do feel like she would be best friends with Eddie and Elsie somehow. Like, don't you think?
Yeah, I know.
Like those are women
Lisa
that
would
Lisa
easily live in Deadloch too. Yeah.
I would run into Lisa like just out on Main Street, and she'd be like, "Here are my friends, Eddie and Dulcie." She would they would absolutely be like hitting up breweries or something. Like I see it.
So if you haven't figured it out, we are talking about a show called Deadloch. Haven't heard of it? That's cool. A lot of people probably have not.
Not many people have. Why?
Yeah.
And that is a crime. That is a crime worse than the crimes in the show.
The crimes perpetrated in this show. I think it is going to creep up on people, and suddenly everyone will be watching it. I think it's a little bit difficult to find on some level, and certainly Amazon's done nothing to promote it.
Oh, it's a fully word of mouth show.
Yeah. I do think if it ends up nominated for some awards, that will bring it some attention. And I think the other thing will be people watching it in North America who watch it with subtitles like I do. Because there will just be a few words that you'll just be like, I could not tell you what that word was until I read it, because I could not understand.
You know what's so funny is the subtitles in this taught me that I had misunderstood like a common expression my entire life until I watched this show. Well, you're gonna laugh at me when I tell you, but it's useless as tits on a bowl. I had always heard this as useless as tits on a bowl, like a bowl that you eat out of. And it does make sense that would be useless. So like my mom would say that, and I think like my grandma would say that, but I always heard it as bowl.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us. That's a beautiful
And when I read bull, I was like, is that a typo? And Don's like, what are you talking about?
Those moments are always amazing when you realize like something that you've thought your whole life is false.
Yeah.
I do. I stand by it still. Like I kind of like it more. I kind of think it's funnier. I don't know.
It's very funny. I mean, I think the story in and of itself is the funniest part for sure. Because I really love the idea of you just imagining
the last words of Phil.
Entirely useless tits on a bowl your entire life. And then just have this revelation of like a bowl. Oh, a bowl. Yeah. All right.
I don't think tits on a bowl would be useless though, because what if the cow was missing and the calves are hungry? I'm just saying, like,
what if the cow was missing? Yeah, you're right. No, you know what? You're asking the big questions, Cynara.
I am.
And
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. This is a good opportunity to read your bio.
Great.
Cynara Geissler is a chronically ill writer, performer, editor, and book publishing professional who invented #toddler grandma style and loves to talk about pop culture, fat liberation, feminism, and feelings. She has appeared on our podcast numerous times. So many. I will read you highlights of her episodes because I believe there are more that we just have not listed here.
If you could just play the sizzle reel you've made for me at this part, that would be amazing.
That would be good. Poltergeist, Cruel
create one
Intentions, White Lotus, Lula Rich, Encanto, the Taylor Swift Eras concert film, and our Christmas Childhood Specials episode. Cynara, welcome back.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I love this show. I actually think it's in my top 10 favorite shows of all time. I think it is so good.
Oh, wow.
So I'm very thrilled to be here to talk about it because I just think it is such a unique and exciting piece of TV. That apparently only Tasmania could get made somehow. So, yeah.
Truly.
I mean,
Yeah.
I watched the whole thing for the second time before to record this episode.
Same.
And
Yeah.
I was still like noting and realizing things in every episode that I had not fully registered the first time.
The joke density is very impressive. Like Dawn and I spent a lot of time talking about, so like, do we think that this is like a true, like a crime procedural, a crime mystery that happens to be very funny? Or like, do we actually consider it like a noir satire or parody? Like it tonally is so interesting because I think it really does both. Like it succeeds as a comedy, but the mystery, the murders, the gore, like all of that is really well written and you're invested in it. So it's
And
really
satisfying. Absolutely.
delivering on a lot of levels. And I think that like how many sort of detective stories are actually funny. Like that's
But
so
also,
few. Oh my God.
but also, like I actually teared up at the last episode at the ending of it.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
know.
felt like really emotional about it at the end.
Well, you care about these characters. Like they are incredibly well drawn, interesting, dynamic individuals. And then collectively to see, just we all hear about like sort of these ideas of sort of like sisterhood versus gender inequality versus not every, just because it's a sisterhood doesn't mean everyone's in it, but like to see sort of like how they take these sort of like concepts of disparity within gender and sexuality, oppression and repression, and show us just show us like where that common factor is, which is in opposition to like toxic patriarchy.
It's such
Brilliant.
a masterclass in showing, not telling, too.
Yes.
Like when you watch it again, I really felt so impressed by the tightness of the scripts and how even like the whole ensemble, everybody has an arc. Like everybody has a really thought out little arc that there are callbacks within it and that it develops and builds on itself. Like it really is like, I don't know if I appreciated that as much the first time around. Yeah.
The
But it
first
really
time I
does-
watched
yeah.
it, I was just like laughing at all the jokes. And then the second time I watched it, I had more time to like think about like the meaning behind the jokes and all the subplots and all of the minor characters and what they're up to and what they're doing and like their perspectives on the different case and why they say or do different things. Like it's such a fascinating show that is just like keeps unfolding and unfolding.
To me, it's like the only other show that I think does this as well with like the whole cast of characters of the show is Justified. It's why I love Justified. It's like even your small town goofy criminals, like they have a clear motivation and you come to like appreciate that over the course of the show, because like it's writers who understand that like even if this character's here for comic relief, like they have to want something, they have to believe something. And so I think that's really what, like, I think the Kates are like a real power team in terms of like writing this. And it must have been, I just was like, ugh, if I could have ever been in a writer's room, like this is the one I would have loved to be in. Like I love that they, I think, really got to make the show they wanted to make. Yeah.
I think so too. And I will just say, like, so probably if you're listening, you may not have watched this show. And I really do think that we will spoil some things. So I but even if we spoil some things, like I think it's make your decision now. If you want to stop, go watch the whole show, come back, great. Otherwise just like enjoy, and you can watch it even spoiled because like it's still so brilliant for all the reasons that, everyone's just said. We should read some background and some synopsis just to give people some ideas about who the Kates are. AG, do you want to read the background?
Sure. Deadloch is an Australian crime mystery black comedy television series created by Kate McCartney and Kate McLennan. The series is set in Deadloch, a fictional town in Tasmania, and stars Kate Box, Madeline Sammy, Alicia Gardner, and Nina Oyama. Deadloch was produced by Amazon Studios and premiered on Amazon Prime video streaming platform on June 2nd, 2023. The Kates, as they are nicknamed, are the showrunners and producers of the series. They are inspired to write a comedy from a setup similar to that of the UK series Broadchurch after they both watched the series, so much that the working title of the project was Funny Broadchurch.
That really pleased me. Cynara, do you want to read the synopsis?
Yes. The beguilingly sleepy settlement of Deadloch on Tasmania's coastline is shaken when the body of a local man turns up dead on the beach. Two female detectives reluctantly take charge of the investigations together. The fastidious Sergeant Dulcie Collins and the brash and reckless detective Eddie Redcliffe from Darwin, aided by the overeager Constable Abby and the dependable Sven. The death, coinciding with the town's annual Winter Festival, a celebration of local arts, cuisine, and culture, forces Dulcie and Eddie to cope with each other's drastically opposite investigating styles and discover what secrets are being hidden in a place struggling to disguise the deep rift that's slowly splitting it and the lives of its residents in two.
Okay, can I just say that we could spend this whole hour just talking about the festival from the perspective of arts workers?
Yes.
Yes. You know what is so cool too is our friends Helen and Martin, Helen of The Illusionist and Martin of, I guess, also The Illusionist and other podcasts, were telling me that like it's actually a lot of the references in Festival are really like accurate to Hobart, where they've been in Tasmania. So like if you're Tasmanian or have spent time there, apparently like there's even more for you in this show. Like it really does like riff on local culture and events, like almost in some places exactly. So now I'm like, is there a real dress your dog like a hero parade? Because I want that.
But did you both not really feel it when like there's all these murders happening in town and the town mayor, who's also the lead organizer of the festival, is just like, but how are the festival pass holders gonna feel about canceling this event because of murder?
Listen, we'll never know what the carrot wank is because it had to be canceled.
But I just feel like those are conversations we've all had.
Yes. I wish, honestly, I would love to co-organize a winter festival with all of us. Like, I think that would be a really just beautiful contribution to 2024.
Festival's amazing, as is the reveal that like the preeminent woman crime profiler happens to be in town on her vacation because it's Festival. I was like, that's amazing. Honestly, it's just like, look, if you're a feminist or a lesbian, you are at Festival because you're watching a 4-hour movie called Poseidon's Uterus while floating in a flamingo on a lake.
Honestly, that looked amazing,
and it's about Joan's tits. That's what the movie's about.
I wanted to be there so badly. Like, just thinking about how if I had a beautiful, like just an edible and then could float. I mean, I would not want a body to touch me, just like a dead body surfacing and touching me.
I'm
like,
sorry,
cool.
you wouldn't want corpses bobbing up against you like gnocchi in a pot?
No,
I think that's how you put it.
That's really not my jam as much as people think it is.
6 gnocchi in a pot. Honestly, though, that feels correct. Like, that is the right vibes of a winter feast. Just like some watching a feminist movie about somebody's boobs in water, like while there are corpses of men floating around.
But also the idea that like all the people there have no idea what they signed up for.
Yeah,
They're just like pass holders.
Yeah.
They want their spot, they're pass holders, and then they're just like kind of put out when they find out it's like 4 hours long. So mad about that.
So I heard about it from the two of you. How did you two hear about it?
Do you know that I heard about it from a hooligan? I heard about it because
on Who Weekly?
On Who Weekly, another of my favorite podcasts, a hooligan called in and recommended it to Lindsay and Bobby. I don't know if they ever watched it, but based on that hooligan describing it, I was like, I will find and watch this. So
amazing.
Yeah, truly. The gift that keeps on giving. Who Weekly. But yeah, it was not on my radar otherwise. And then when I watched it, I like recommended it. And a lot of people that I would think would have liked it were like, I've not heard about this. So yeah, I think you're right that like Amazon Prime did little to no promotion in North America for the release. Nothing. Yeah. It got a lot of press like in New Zealand and Australia.
Yeah, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, I found out about it because my husband Joe was just watching it. I don't know how he found out about it, but it's one of those things where it's just like, oh God, like watching another crime, like a bleak crime procedural. And then I just like started tuning in as episodes went along and realized that it was the most hilarious thing I ever saw. And so then I became even like, I was more obsessed with it than I would say he was by the end of it.
I feel the same. Like Dawn watches like every crime offering. Like it's the main reason we have like BritBox and stuff like that. And so he had watched, that's the other thing. He had watched an episode and not told me because he wasn't sure if I would think it was too violent. And then I watched an episode and was like, no, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Like, why would you keep this from me? I'm like, within the first few seconds of this, they find a dead body and like set a man's pubes on fire and then puke on his corpse. Like like, of course I want to watch this.
It is.
It's got a hook right away.
Incredible hook right away. I got it.
Incredible.
It was too. So, Grandma and I watch a lot of mysteries and cozy mysteries. So it was not cozy quite enough for her. And she tried. She watched the first episode with me, but she also just isn't she can handle like swearing, but she doesn't like aggressive swearing. And so this was just too much for her. And I think like I sort of understand it, especially from her point. I mean, she is 90. But I mean, she's very macabre. So, but I think it was also a combination of, it's quite darkly shot and she's legally blind. So she can watch TV, but she's reading the subtitles and trying to see the rest of the stuff that's going on.
Right.
Like she just couldn't keep up, And so I get it.
Yeah. And I think like you have to kind of like, it's a bit of a slow burn. Like you have to stick with it through the first couple episodes. And like, I think I found that maybe I wasn't like 100% sure I loved it until I hit episode 3.
I would agree with that. Because the introduction of Eddie is so, I think, deliberately madcap kind of that you're like, what is this show?
Yeah, because it hits hard, I think, on the sort of parody, right? Like, sort of to set the scene, and then it sort of settles into its bones, and that's very smart on their part for like the overall arc of the show. But a lot, like, I can see how it ends up perhaps being a tiny bit of a hiccup for someone who's just going to casually drop in and maybe not stick it out. But like it does get brilliant so fast. Like it's very like compelling right away. But maybe like the shock value is too much for some people.
And I think it's like super relatable for all of us, right? Like Dulcie is like on so many different levels. Like I related to Dulcie in a way like she's trying to do her job, but like literally everything in the world is like conspiring against her. She's like, it's just like all of us. Like you have those days where it's like, I'm a competent person trying to do my job, but like, everything in my life is working against me. And like, it's just that sense of exhaustion that she carries throughout this whole show. I found so relatable.
Yeah. It's very like, this is my circus and these are my monkeys and I can't like control any of them, right? Like it is that. It sucks. Like she's just not well supported to do her job, but there's also the like really cleverly kind of introduced thing of we think the detective's going to be a man. This more senior detective who's coming to help with the investigation, but it turns out to be Eddie, who's like the middle of a complete mental breakdown, who shows up and is a woman. And at first it's like, it seems that that's just really about subverting the trope of the lead sort of male detective who comes to town. But it's also teasing the sort of marital discord between Dulcie and Kath, because, you know, Dulcie has had this affair that's revealed. So like there's a lot of just like thought, like everything they do is really intentional and thought out. But I also think it's like, you have to treat it like Feastival. You have to just go in on the season pass. You have to trust that this show has got you, because it does. And everything they're doing is going to pay off. But like, I could understand if you've never seen the work of any of these people before being like, does this show know what it's doing? Because it does have that like energy, I think, at first.
Yeah, it's like it feels chaotic and unhinged in a way that I can see being kind of unsettling to people who the most likely people to tune into this are people who are fans of these kind of like, noir criminal episodic shows and series. Like, I mean, I do think calling it funny Broadchurch is like that's the beautiful hook for me, for sure. I think like just thinking about how it also subverts the way that like we still have these gender stereotypes about how all women are supposed to act a certain way and all women and all like just this idea that like there's one sort of type of woman. And this show takes such glee and such delight and savors showing us like just what a wild spectrum of
and not
humans.
only can you like not count on knowing not only are you like thinking that maybe they're just surface characters in the show, is that like absolutely not. I'm going to prove to you that there's way more to these women than meets the eye, right? Like your veterinarian, also a lawyer, stuff like that. Your doctor, also the mayor, also a professional scuba diver. Like it's very, and it doesn't like put a hat on a hat. Like it doesn't spend a lot of time emphasizing that. But I kept thinking like it was so amazing to me how the men were so incompetent. Like the moment that they named the toilets after the one brother, Gatham Latham Memorial Toilets, I was like, this is the funniest thing that's ever happened. Naming a public toilet after just like a terrible loser dude that got murdered. And it's just so much better that it's in Tasmania because like they don't say bathroom, they say toilets. So it just like really makes it so Gavin Latham Memorial Toilets. May he rest in poops. Like, it's just so funny. And like, just, she's trying to get the town digger to exhume a body, but then he goes and does it during the funeral of another man. And it's just like the most incompetent thing he could have done while Lightning Crashes is being performed. Let's talk about that.
Oh my God. The musical selections, the musical selections in this show from like
are
Touch
genius.
Myself.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Such genius. Like, and when we get to the big sort of reveal at the end, I'm not trying to skip ahead, but like when it comes to like the killer singing Alanis Morissette's You Oughta Know. Oh my God. I thought, oh wow, this is a TV show that's literally been made for me.
Yeah.
Like this TV show has taken every wild thought and every weird dream, and they've made it so much better than anything I could have made. And I'm so grateful to them. Like I feel like I owe them, I don't know, like a love letter or something. Or
I know.
It's like you want there to be like a tip jar while you're watching it so you can tip for your favorite jokes.
Like perhaps a little koala tip jar.
I'm obsessed with this town was known for abalone fishing, old growth logging, and getting pregnant and going through with it. Like, it's just an incredible description of a town. We know everything we need to know about this place. Fishing, old growth logging, lots of pregnancies that are unwanted and followed through with. Like, yikes. Just incredible. Also, the first dead body having a half shark, half truck tattoo. Like,
wow.
I'm obsessed with so many of these things, and they're so fast, right? Like, it's just, you blink and you miss it. I'm also very obsessed with the incredible subplot of Abby, the like younger investigator who clearly wants to be a forensic investigator, engaged to the lead medical examiner who's so incompetent and terrible and constantly stealing her ideas.
And so obsessed with doing like a TED Talk. Like that is such a perfect detail.
So funny. In the middle of an ongoing murder investigation, he goes to Perth and does it not a TED Talk though, TEDx talk.
I know, TEDx. That's the thing. Like I love the distinction. Like it's so vital to me because I'm petty.
Yeah.
That the distinction is a TEDx talk. It's so
and just like sort of near the end of the show, she has this moment where they're kind of like panic trying to figure out who the murderer is, and he comes up as a suspect, and she's like, I didn't consider him to be a murderer. I just thought he was failing upwards until he became prime minister.
Yeah. Well, and that little turn is so interesting because like part of the reason that they think that it's a woman is because the men in this town are so incompetent that it's just like, who amongst them could pull off this many murders, right? Like, who amongst them is like smart enough and like gonna keep trophies and like cut out the tongues and mobilize a boat, and like it's a very complicated murder plot. So I do think that's really funny to me that that's part of why they're like, it has to be a woman, because like this is a town where we name toilets after people who are men. Like it's just not, they're not good at anything. And like that the terrible footy club owner who just like can't who can't respect any of the women in town. It's always like inspectress, mayorette, copette. Like it's just every time he has to talk about. I laughed at copette so hard. Copette is absurd. Like it's like if you were editing a manuscript by a man who thought he was being fancy, which is I'm honestly kind of lifting something from my old life here. But a friend literally had to edit a man once who was writing stuff like that, like instructress, and she had to be like, dude, like this is not the like cool poetic pedestal you think it is. Like just say instructor. God. Like no female instructor wants to be called instructress in our contemporary society. So like just like that demonstration of the sexism, right? Like
but like it's just like there's this sort of all the touches of like how the patriarchy is dragging the investigation down. Like they bring in this sergeant from out of town near the end to take over
from Carnage Bay, my favorite neighboring town.
And then like he spends like the rest of the show is just like him 5 steps behind her investigation. Like even at the end of it, like they've solved the murder and you hear him like talking on the CB about how he's gonna like rage hunt, you know, Sky O'Dwyer out into the literal ocean.
Pull your moon cups out, like all the stuff he says.
It was so funny just seeing them put a bus just a bus full of men driving out of town and just being like, that's the key to safety. For sure.
Yeah,
we
bus
put
all the men
on a bus and bus them out of town. But I really loved it when Dulcie says at one point, quote, he told me I was hysterical and ruled by the moon, and then he hung up on me.
Yeah.
Just like the combination of those 3 things.
But because I think it's just like it's such a good parody because it's so close to true things that have happened to all women at work.
And I also like that the show out of the gate sort of dealt with the fact that they're cops, right? It's like one of the first, in the early first 10 minutes of the show, we see the like a cab on the garbage bins, right?
Yeah, it doesn't feel very propaganda.
It doesn't feel propaganda, and that's impressive to me too. Also, the like little really like, you know, look away from the screen and you miss it, like joke about the Wi-Fi password at the station being 3 little pigs, all lowercase, like stuff like that. And you're just like, it still manages to joke about cops. And yeah, like I'm obsessed with the Carnage Bay boy cops who like when they come in and they literally bust up the ceramics studio and they're just like breaking all of the beautiful ceramics, including a literal bust of a woman's torso as they like apprehend the women. And it's just like, then suddenly they're drinking beers and high-fiving in the street as if they all just like had beers in their pockets. Like the depiction of the male cops as just like a fraternity is truly like, it's so funny and effective, right?
Yeah. And I also even thought like one of the most hilarious and compelling storylines the second time around I focused on was Tammy and Miranda, the indigenous
so great.
teenage
Could be their own show.
girl.
Could be a spinoff.
Tammy and Miranda are incredible. I love them so much.
Their journey is so incredible, and like all the land back jokes in the show is just like that. It just like adds this other layer to the. It's just like, you know, like they're trying to approach them, you know, the rich woman in town to get sponsorships or scholarships for their soccer team, and so they can do things. But like they're kind of like, you know, their journey is to like turn this around and try to hunt the killer and try to save the town, and like their journey to doing that is just, it's so funny. It's just like, we're doing everybody a huge favor here. And like, you know, them shoving chips through the prison windows to all the women who are jailed and stuff. Like they are the low-key kind of secondary heroes of this series.
It's a real like Rosencrantz and Guildenstern kind of vibe with those two. Like I really love it. And I also thought that like the woman who played oh gosh, what's her first name? Carruthers there. The like sort of rich woman who like has the fancy school and is like giving extreme white savior, like
Margaret Carruthers.
Margaret Carruthers. That character was great, and that actor did such a good job of just like playing like a despicable sort of like upper crust lifestyle. Like she kind of has a vague Martha Stewart thing going on with her $89 cookbook or whatever it is, and her weird jars of spiced fat and stuff that she's just always giving people. Like she was great, a weird and good character who you really like are suspicious of throughout, but you can't tell like is she a killer or is she just like a crappy white lady who, you know, just wants to control the indigenous population of this town.
And really, she's kind of both in the long run. Yeah.
Like and the way that they're able to like pull that off and like have a real moment with, you know, her and her auntie, right? And her basically being like, I don't know if I want this scholarship because like of where it's coming from. Like, I don't want, you know, I don't know if I want to take this person's money because look at how she treated my friend, you know? And it's just, it has like real moving character beats. And I felt that way about Abby too. And like her having to realize that like she's engaged to her terrible fiance who was her professor, who essentially groomed her into a relationship, and she's smarter and better than him. And he's just undermining her at every turn. And just like watching that unfold and watching, you know, the moment when they get the substitute medical examiner and then Dulcie's like, says I love you to her because she just like competently does her job instead of playing jazz and writing a TED talk the way the other medical examiner does. Like, it's the moments where the thing that it does where these women are all kind of at odds and working in isolation and then eventually all come to work together is really well done. And it kind of reminded me of like the Star Wars movie everyone got mad about, but that I liked because I was like, this is a movie. This is a movie where everyone has a role to play for the thing to be solved, for the thing to be accomplished. And I think Deadloch really does that too. Like Eddie needs Dulcie needs Abby. Sven also has, you know, everyone has bits of.
Sven had moments.
The only good man in Deadloch, Sven.
Truly.
Sven.
I also really like, I mean, Kath I found to be like, her neediness was so aggressive to me as someone who can't handle that. And like the long text messages and like it was just, and then but then like, you know, they sort of slowly like reveal these other layers to her in a really smart, interesting way. And when we finally find out that like, you know, there's a reason that she is so performative in her affections, you know, is because she's still brokenhearted from being cheated on by Dulcie, and like they haven't worked through that kind of stuff. And it's, you know, but when the other woman, I can't remember her name right now, but finally calls her out, in that just, it's really sharp and specific and perfect.
The line is, stop inserting yourself into everything. You're an emotional truffle pig, which is like,
oh my God, you're an emotional truffle pig.
You're an emotional truffle pig is truly one of the most devastating and specific burns I've ever heard in my life, of somebody who makes everything about them. Who's always like, everyone's getting murdered in this town, and Kath is just like, how can I show up with a million bagels and make this about me? Like, it's a very like interesting take on the busybody trope that they then complicate, right? Because there's, it's I think that's the thing that's so nice about it, is like, if you've watched these murder mysteries, like you will sort of like recognize all the sort of like the weird priest, and then it just turns out he's writing like a barely concealed screenplay about the events of the town. Just stuff like that is so funny. What is it? It's like Inspector Father is the character or something like that. He's a priest, but he's a detective. And he's literally telling everything his parishioners confess to everybody. Like, it's just so funny. I love it so much. Like, so clever.
It is so funny. Oh
yeah. Oh my God.
Sorry. Just like, can we talk about Ray?
Oh,
like, so I was not sure that it was him until.
Did you suspect him?
I did at one point. I can't remember if it was the second to last episode or if it made it all the way to the last episode. I'm not sure. But I did suspect him because I was just like, this sounds weird, but I was just like, this actor's too good for this role unless he's going to get a chance to change his character up a little bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, sometimes you're just like, we haven't seen everything he has to offer. And when we get the big reveal, my God, it was chilling and devastating. And I was actually extremely upset. And I was also blown away that, of course, a horrific misogynist who has murdered numerous sex workers in his past decides he's then going to be an ally and save women from toxic men.
The fight where he's like, and I did it without even wanting credit. Well, it kind of seems like you want credit. Well, it'd be nice to get a little bit of credit for not wanting credit. Like, it's just that whole dialogue is like chef's kiss, 100 out of 10. Like, so funny. And it is devastating because, like, oh my God, like, the stuff that they do to disarm us from looking at him, like he's walking around with a geriatric mini donkey. Are you kidding me? Like they really, and then they make sure he's at the beach when one of the bodies is discovered, and he like visibly throws up and stuff. Like he really puts on a show. He really like, the second time I watched it, I was like, like, yes, it's there, but like you really, the other people are just so much more quirky and suspicious that you are distracted. Like they do a really, really good job with his character. Yeah. Oh, but it is what a betrayal. I do also just love the idea of him being like, guess what? Group, like barn full of men I've abducted. Yeah, I love you ought to know. This was written about Dave Coulier. Like I love that he's just mansplaining you ought to know to this like literal captive audience of men that he's abducted. Like, and that's being an ally, right? Like it's so twisted and funny. I can't. It's so funny.
Oh God. Yeah.
I hope Alanis Morissette knows about it. I just like want her to know that her song was used so wonderfully.
Yeah. In terms of the licensing, for sure. Like, I mean, obviously they'd license it, but as to whether, I don't know if she has to okay each instance of it at this point, because some artists retain that kind of control. but I don't know where she's at with it.
The editing, right? Like the cutaway of like having that character remember, oh, this is the song that was playing when that man picked me up.
Yeah.
And they're all the women start singing it together, and then the cutaway to him singing it to the men. Like, I'm just like, oh, this beautiful editing. Also, the editing of the interrogation scene where they're interviewing all the different women and they just cut back and forth to the interview is so expertly and expediently done. I just was really, really impressed with just, the editing and the scripts on this, like such a tightly, beautifully made show, like, and accomplishes so much in 10 episodes, like really uses those hours to the max, right?
I think in particular too, like the performance of Madeline Sammy as Eddie Redcliffe just really, like, I kind of want to rewatch stuff just to hear her deliver the dialogue and those lines, because she speaks so fast and she uses the most slang, and it feels like I need to rewatch things just like to hear her, to see her performance more closely, because I think it's like she's so great at creating this character that is like, you know, like an echo or parody of the male like investigator who comes in, you know, like.
Yeah, like she's absolutely like a parody of like the cowboy kind of incompetent male clown investigator. And like the amount of times that woman says C-U-N-T, like if you drank every time, you would be in the hospital. Okay. Like that word is deployed to great effect. And that's the other thing. I don't think anything in this feels gratuitous. Like it really feels like every moment is earned.
Well, like there's a scene where like Eddie spends like, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes, like looking around for a marker and cardboard while they're like trying to solve this crime. And then like, you just realize she's like drawing her foot on a paper and duct taping it to her foot, because she's like doesn't have time to buy sandals to replace her sandal.
The visual gags, right? Like those little comic set pieces, so beautiful. And actually I was going to say, speaking of Kath, like she has my favorite line delivery in the whole show, which is when Dulcie's like, how was the endurance art? And then she says, I hated it. It was amazing. Oh my gosh. Every performance art show you've ever been to. Like truly,
just honestly,
perfect.
Like the endurance art,
the endurance art was like, I just was like, I don't think it ends until the last person leaves, you guys. Like, so this is never. If you don't leave, Kath, like you will be staring into this Tasmanian Marina Abramovic's eyes till the end of time. Anyway,
yes,
yeah.
Also, just a quick, tiny correction. There's only 8 episodes, not 10. So
sorry.
No. But if you're just listening to this and you're like, I'm going to go find all 10 episodes, and you're like,
oh no, it's 8 hours. They use that 8 hours. I don't know why
effectively.
I say 10,
it's fine.
Yeah,
It's just like it's super good.
It's 8 hours that feels like 10 in a good way.
It's so good.
Question mark?
In a great way.
Yeah.
I will also say, like, I thought it was extremely funny that according to the website The Conversation, there's so much colorful vernacular in Deadloch that the creators had to write an essay drawing on Shakespeare's body, BAWDY, to defend their extensive use of the C word to the Amazon Prime executives.
I just, again, it's like would truly love if anyone can leak those emails to me. I would love the oral history of convincing, or the written history of convincing Amazon Prime executives that it's really important to use.
I really need them to give us a second season.
Yeah, I'm desperate for a second season. And I feel like that's kind of indicative of the answer to this last question. But of course, does Deadloch pop? Yeah.
Undoubtedly. I think it's, I'm going to say, I think it's the best TV show I've seen like this year. And I kind of agree with Cynara, like it's probably in my top 10 of all time. Like it's,
yeah, I think so too for me as well.
Yeah, pops all the way to outer space, truly. Like shoot it in a like canister and preserve it. I need for aliens to find it.
We also love to leave our episodes on other things we recommend as well. Cynara, as our guest, would you like to go first?
Yeah, I would like to recommend, so Rebecca Sugar, one of my favorite creators, the creator of Steven Universe, has a little EP out of her music. So she wrote all the songs in that show, and it's like the 10-year anniversary of that show being made, but she has a EP out called Spiral Bound, and it's a lovely little kind of folky, light, sort of like cute songs. It's like 15 minutes long or something. It's very short, but just like a really delightful release that I feel is healing for her, because she ran a show on the Cartoon Network and they didn't want to let her explore any gay topics, and made her life very terrible. So wow. It's just really nice to listen to that with that context and hear her, say lyrics like, I'm taking my time and I'm not going to produce a ton of stuff. And you're just like, okay, this is good. I want this for you.
Yeah, this is great.
So yeah, and a wonderful, wonderful singer and musician. But yeah, I want good things. I want good things for her. So
cool. That's a great recommendation.
That sounds
Thank
great.
you. AG, what about you?
So Awkwafina and Sandra Oh have a new collab out. It's a movie called Quiz Lady. It's on Disney, and directed by Jessica Yu. And it's just a silly movie. If you're looking for something that's like light and fun to watch, they are a very entertaining duo. Sandra Oh goes like full comedy in this, which we rarely see her do. And
I didn't recognize her in the like promo images.
Yeah.
She looks so different. It's so different from her Killing Eve aesthetic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's just fun. It's just a fun movie to watch. So I recommend that if you're looking for something to laugh at, laugh
Awesome.
with.
I really thought you were going to be recommending the Awkwafina wax figures that have just been released at Madame Tussauds.
Oh,
and I was like,
I didn't know about that.
I was like, you're a legend for this recommendation. Go check out the 2 different wax figures. One's in Florida.
Do they look as incredible as the Rock's wax figure?
Oh, no. Apparently, Awkwafina's Madame Tussauds renderings are really good. Like,
oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, and they have apparently also fixed that unfortunate wax figure of Dwayne The Rock Johnson that was not well received.
Literally made him look like a decomposing body. It was incredible.
But I was like, if I find out today that Andrea Gin like just travels to wax museums for the unveilings of wax figures, like I will be obsessed.
I am now curious to see if they were able to capture Awkwafina's posture that she has in Quiz Lady, because her posture is quite specific. Watch the movie if only for that.
Oh, I want to.
I plan to watch the movie. I'm very excited.
It's on my list, so I'm glad that you recommended it. Like, I'm excited now.
I am going to recommend what I can only describe as one of my new favorite audiobooks is Britney Spears, The Woman in Me, read by Michelle Williams.
It's so good.
Yeah. I'm sure many people have heard the viral snippet of Michelle Williams talking like Justin Timberlake in a very specific interaction. And it's incredible. But beyond that, it's also just a really, devastating book by a woman who you think as having an incredible amount of power and privilege. And she did and does, but also how it could be, it was easy enough for her family to weaponize a lot of stuff against her and just really ruin her life for 13 years. I mean, there's a lot of stuff skimmed over, a lot of details that we don't get. There's a part 2, allegedly, that's like coming at some point.
I think it's already the best-selling celebrity memoir of all time, so they definitely want her to write another book.
Yeah, deservedly so. Like, I think whoever her co-writer was did a really great job of, just... I think her voice comes through really well. Like Britney Spears' voice comes through really well.
I think Michelle Williams really performs Britney Spears' voice in a she better EGOT for this. I'm just saying, like, truly. You can hear her Oscar thirst, I think, in this performance, and I don't object to it. I don't either. She's Anne Hathawaying so hard in this performance.
Truly.
No, it's so good. And also, did you get to the part where Britney says that maybe it was spiritual, maybe it was aliens, and then we never hear anything about aliens again? That's my favorite part.
Sure do.
Of the book.
Well, that's the thing. Like, so I am not going to say a single word about like any speculation around sort of like Britney's wellness at all, because I think she says over and over again in the book that apparently they could say that she wasn't able to be in control of her own life, but she was able to perform, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of like shows and basically run an entire little industry propped up by her body and mind performing these shows and releasing music. And, she could do all of those things, but she wasn't allowed to have, financial control or bodily autonomy or anything like that. So I think there's just really like, to me, like I'll say something controversial here. It's no different to me if you believe in aliens than if you believe in God. I don't care.
Yeah,
One way or the other,
I like that she's open to
equal
both.
proof of life, in my opinion, on both fronts. So cool. No problem. And she believes in both, it seems. So cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
No, I agree that it's like a must. It's a must read. And I think it's the best way to consume it is in the audiobook.
Yeah, and I honestly, it's only 5 hours. I decided to clean a lot on Saturday because I was trying to put off some other stuff, and I smoked through it so fast.
Yeah,
Great.
I didn't have an interest in listening to it before, but now I do.
It's only 5 hours, dude. It's real good. Anyway, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you, Cynara, for joining us again.
Yeah,
so happy to have you.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you.
I know I always ask you this, but if you'd like people to follow you online, where do you want them to follow you?
Oh yeah. I feel like my good times are on TikTok. So over there I'm at professional guest star, but I'm also on Instagram and the website formerly known as Twitter. And my handles there is at Cynara G. CYNARAGEE.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us. And you can email us at popthiscollective@gmail.com. You can hang out with us on our various social medias. Truly, very rarely there though, so I totally understand if you don't. But email us. That's fine. We like to hear from you. Come up to us in the street. We also enjoy that. Honestly, really finding us in real life is actually the best way, I think.
And if the chili tank at Kitsilano Farmers Market would like to sponsor the podcast, we are open to it. So, like I say, like I have any.
Yeah.
Professional guest star Cynara G with like all of her episodes sponsored by the chili tank. This request coming to you live from this moment. We also typically have Lisa weigh in at this point to say thank you to Andrea Gin for being our extremely wonderful producer and co-host. So today I'm going to say it. Thanks, AG.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And thanks everyone for listening.
Bye.
Bye.